Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. I'm our best wannabe, and this is my 2004 Mazda Rx8 that I'm planning to cut up and do a full wide body kit on, as well as custom front and rear bumpers. So if you want to see me do this with basically Harbor Freight tools and no know-how, stick around. Alright guys, so here's the full walkthrough of our wide body kit for the Mazda. If you can tell, this is not a Mazda bumper. This is actually for a Nissan 350Z. It is a Rocket Bunny replica from Duraflex. And I know everyone hates on Duraflex, it's crap. They don't have good fitment, but that don't matter because we're cutting out these full headlight bezels, probably cutting the whole thing in half, narrowing it to make it fit the car, and all that good stuff. Good fiberglass work and something new to do, make it a little more unique, a little different than what everyone else is doing when they come to these wide body kits. Because I just want to be a little different, make it harder for myself. All right, there's that. And we move on to these white pieces. These are actually from Modception. It's a company over in Hungary. He shipped it over to me a couple months ago, and I'm just not getting to this point. Anyway, the guy's name is Lajouche, that I think runs the company, maybe pronouncing that wrong. But great customer service, good price on a body kit, especially with how these things can be crazy numbers. But, got all that shipped over. I go to the black. This is actually KVD. And if you don't know what KVD is, it's super flexible. That way when you hit a speed bump or a pothole, you don't just shatter your kit and it's all done for. And it keeps your level work. It's really friendly for someone who's actually going to drive the car and not put it in shows. And I think that's going to help us out a lot with future problems. Anyway, that's the kit. That's what we're going to start doing here in just a second. Got to start cutting my fenders up, welding everything back up. Lots of seam sealer, lots of work, but we're going to have fun. Okay, so first step is going to be to take off these front and rear bumpers. That way we can see where the flares are actually going to locate. They have little tabs on them that go in this gap right here. And that'll let us kind of know where they're going to sit so we can figure out where to start cutting that, figure out where to put the rivets at, and really just get the first steps out of the way. So we got the lower side skirts off, and I got the rear fenders sitting in place. That's about gonna be how she looks, much wider. Now I've marked some lines in this front one, so I gotta cut this out so that we can actually put the front fender in place. We gotta see where to drill our holes at, and then we can go back and cut more out. But here's the point of no return. Okay, so for the next part, I have to go around this whole edge. I have to trim off it, see where there's a bit of a lip to it. All that's excess. It has to come off so it actually fit flush to the body. You can kind of see where I started on this one. That black Sharpie line is where I'm going down to. I'm just doing this with a Dremel by hand until I can bust out something else to make it a little smoother. But for now, we're gonna rough cut everything, try to get everything fitted up, and see if we can get it to actually match the body lines on the car. You see I've already started cutting on this fender to allow for this large, basically the venting of that fender, how far it dips in. That all has to be recessed. That way it'll fit. And so far I may have cut off too much, but we're gonna find out soon. I believe I did on this fender. So we're actually trying again on this spare one I have. See, there's a lot less cut off on that one. I kind of just got a little too excited and went a little deep. And of course that wouldn't be finished off anyway. I'd go back through and come all the way around, but I don't think I have to go that far back. So I have a spare, so why not try to make it fit a little tighter. But anyway, I'll sit out here for the next hour and trim on some fiberglass. All right, so I've been sanding for probably about 2 hours. And I believe I have the front flare done on the driver's side. The passenger side I have mostly done. I haven't cut that fender yet to be able to tell how well it's going to fit in, so I got to do that before I go any further with it. I have, for the most part, both rears done. Actually, one rear done. This one I'm still working on. Probably another hour worth of sanding on all of it, just to get it kind of roughly in the ballpark of where I need it. Once I get all that done, I'll move on to actually laying out all the rivet holes on the flares, then transfer onto the body so that I can actually mount all the flares and then start doing fit and finish from then on. Okay, now that we have the edges sort of sanded down to where we're gonna actually work with it, we're gonna go through, and I have the O-rings I'm gonna use for my hardware kit, and those are gonna be placed roughly where you need them. Gives you a visual to actually center it up. And I use a small drill bit to give me a starter divot. That way I can go back with something larger and actually put my hardware in. So when it's all said and done, that'll be all you see. And we'll do a little time lapse and get through this right quick. All right, so I've already gone and taped up this fender. That way it won't have as much blowout or anything when we drill it. And what I've done is I've gone ahead and put a riv nut, painted it, and all that just like that on one piece of it so I can then locate the rest of the bolt holes. I didn't film that part because it was a little tedious. I had to have two people to kind of like get it in there and then mark the hole. But anyway, now that we got it all set up, what I've done is I've gone through with the same size drill bit as what I drilled the holes in a flare with and used that almost like a center punch. That way I know exactly where to drill with my step bit, which is better for the thin metal. It walls at the hole a lot less, makes it a lot prettier, neater, and it's a lot better for them to sit into. I noticed with this thin metal on a regular drill bit, especially if it's not sharp, it will wallow out, make almost like a triangle hole, which is not great. So anyway, I went ahead and did all my marks. So now I'm gonna take that bolt out, bring this off, and go ahead and completely drill, paint, riv nut, and then bring the fender flare back and make sure everything lines up good. And then we'll have this side bolted. Also, here's a super important step. You want to get you some spray paint or just any paint really that's going to help prevent rust and coat all the bare metal surfaces from where you drilled them holes. You do not want to here in a couple years have to go back and start chasing rust issues all because you didn't do something that took you 5 minutes, if that. It takes longer for it to dry than it does actually apply it. And of course you can just spray this on there, but I found it really easy, just use a Q-tip. Drop it in there, spread it around, and everything bare metal is no longer bare. Okay, now that our paint is dry, you just get your nut certs, attach them to your riv nut tool, get them all the way down. Go over to your car, jab them in the holes, make sure they're good and flush, and just compress them in. And just like that, now you have a threaded hole, good for any bolt in the side of your car. And now for your pretty much finished product, we was able to put all of our hardware in, and the fender flare is now attached to the car securely. Of course, it's not the finished product completely, but as you can see, I still have to put the two lower ones in. But as she sits, that is her. I'll go ahead and move on to putting these two lower ones in, and we'll move on to the front of the car. We're gonna go through here. I'm gonna drill a pilot hole and then cut out all this right here where the Sharpie is. That right there marks where my foremost bolt on the flare is actually gonna be at. And if you're doing this, make sure you leave you some extra metal below your cut line for like side skirts, anything else you gotta mount. And with saying that, we'll start cutting. Hole is cut out of the fender, I can somewhat fit the flare to it. And this would be great if I had a second person. But as you can see, she pretty much sits where she needs to. Not correctly lined up at the moment. But as you can see, that corner is hitting the actual body. And so I have to go through and sand that down and get that radius to fit right, as well as taking down this inner part of the flashing. That way it actually butt all the way up against the fender and sit the way we want it to. Okay, so my phone overheated. I'm not really sure how much y'all missed or how much I actually recorded, but we're to this step now. I've got it pretty much where I need it to be. It needs a little bit more sanding to get it like butted up to the car a little more, a little better. But we're to the point where we can actually go through and put all of our pilot holes in, just like we did on the rear fender. And we'll go through, do all those, do riv nuts, whole 9 yards, and come back. Now the next step is going to be to go to each one of these flares and address the fitment of them. See, some of it looks great. Other parts, you can kind of tell it sticks off the car a little bit. If you'll focus, like right in there. So I'm gonna go through and I've marked what I need to do. I'm gonna smooth out some areas, cut some areas. Go through, I gotta fill this hole up because that didn't line up. That was my fault. I put the riv nut a little too high. So I'm gonna fill this in, put a new hole in the flare, and then make my, I guess dimple, what you'd say. That way the washers and everything fit nice. But this is gonna be the tedious part. It's gonna be taking it on and off over and over again, getting everything lined up. Then I have to go over here, mess with this fitment because as you can tell, there's a lip there. Now this is gonna be held in place a little better, but it's still not great. So I'll just sand in here, take this corner down because it juts out a little farther than I wanted it to. And just overall just fit and finish. Do that on all 4 corners. I've already taken some other stuff off because I was messing with the bumper. Got of course do the same thing over here, which is gonna be more fun because this lower piece didn't line up, so I gotta redo that piece. I'm gonna cut it and all good stuff like that. But that's our next steps. So after about 3 or 4 rounds of sanding, I've got that edge way cleaner. It's hugging the body pretty much all the way. I still have some slight gaps, but it's nothing crazy. And I believe, like even that out there looks like a gap. See, it pressed down a little more when I tightened it up more. But whenever I go through and put this on the car for the last time, I will be using probably some sort of urethane or seam sealer, which is gonna go on the back side to stick the flare to the car just to keep from vibration, and all these riv nuts should hold it, but I want that extra securance. And it'll also fill up these teeny tiny cracks, which I know that might say like, hey, just do better. But on some of these, I've sanded down to the point where if I go any farther, I'm going into the actual fascia of where that nut sits. And I don't really want to go any further than that because I don't really like going that thin on this fiberglass. And I mean, it's within a 1/16 of an inch pretty much everywhere. And I believe when I put that seam sealer in, it's going to fill that up. And it's not going to be like a WRB big glob all the way across the top. It's going to be on the back side. You probably won't even really see it. It'd be just like a really faint black line that goes around the whole flare, which I like that outline look. A lot of people don't, but I do. It kind of accentuates the whole look of it to me. And I think that's what we're gonna go with. On the passenger side of the car, I already have my rear flare set, but I messed up, and you can't really tell it because this seemed to line up. It lined up there. I wound up not pushing this about a 1/2 inch more forward, or up and forward. So what's happened is this line is too low. And so when I put my lower piece in, it don't match up, or it didn't. See how far off that right there is? I've had to go through and cut this in half, take a sliver out, and what I'm gonna do is I made these little metal pieces to hold it together to where it needs to be, and that should line up far better than what it did, because at first it wouldn't even fit. There's like a massive gap. It was horrible. So the plan is, I've cut up pieces of metal, put self-tappers in them, and I'm gonna use those as my guide to backfill this with fiberglass, remake this part, elongate that bit to match, and then go back into the front side as well, smooth it all out, and basically make this ugly piece back into a flush one like that one. All right, so I've scuffed up the back side here, give me something to bite into it with. Now, we'll go to this side and basically create a dam. And use painter's tape and duct tape probably, just like make sure nothing gets past. So I'll probably fill kitty hair into the other way. Maybe, may not, I'm not sure. But for now, I'm just gonna lay this in, pour some on, and then try to fill it out. Okay, so it's been a little bit of time now. As you can see, I've did some other stuff off camera. I've made a patch for this. I basically just wanted to build this up more so I can go back and recut it. That way it fits the car a little better. As well as I patched a hole in it. That way I can go back and re-drill this one because it was off. I needed to have the hole about right in there. So there, whatever happened, it just didn't line up. Anyways, there's that. We're gonna get back to this one right here. So now that I have gotten to the point of this patch being pretty much cured enough to really mess with, it's only been about an hour on it. It's still kind of tacky on the backside, but we're gonna go ahead and we're gonna build this edge back out to line up with this. That way I can come through and I can sand it down and make it look nice and clean. Not necessarily a flat line. I might just slope it or I might elongate this. I'm not sure yet. More than likely I'll just patch it all in and slope it down to where it all looks nice. And I'll probably wind up accidentally filling this hole in as well, but I can just always go back and re-drill that because all these holes seem to line up pretty well. But my idea for that worked out pretty well because it lines back up with the car pretty decently. Now it's the next morning. Our part has cured. See, I took out my brackets and it's now one solid piece. You can kind of see what I'm going for now. I'm gonna have to fill in this gap and go through and cut that loose. As you can see, that's nice and strong now. But what the plan is now to go through and sand off all this glaze coat all through here and probably all the way back to here. That way I can build me a platform of fiberglass all the way up to this point. And that way I have plenty of material to sand off and smooth out to make that nice ending right there. Put the same thing up front, go through, fill this all in. May make a bridge here, I'm not sure, because that's the arch. I really gotta dial that in. Okay, I now have a very roughly sanded out piece. That's pretty much all the area we're gonna need, as far as I know. I may need to go higher up, I'm not sure. But I believe that should be, for what it's for, good to go. Very rough. Should be plenty of surface area for that resin to bond into, make something strong, and give me plenty of area to build up on. So that was half and half successful. See, through here, I noticed that the sheet I was using wanted to leave a lot of air bubbles in this big gap. So I wound up going back with the kitty hair, just a stranded, and pushing all that in there and trying to get rid of as many air bubbles as possible. You can kind of see a couple small ones. But I know I had another issue on this end, like that bubble right there. So this whole corner is probably not gonna adhere right, which is fine. I'll just have to go back in and sand that out, put a new piece in, and try to wrap around the corner. And I'll have to also do this corner anyway, because you see I wasn't able to get in here yet. So once this cures and kicks off, I'll be able to flip it over or stand it up one, be able to lay around the corners on each side, cut out, do what I gotta do. But all in all, I think that's gonna do pretty well. You can kind of see how I made the corner more sweep in. It's kind of hard to tell. I probably could do another layer, or I might go to sand all this out once it's said and done, then do a back piece. Because the end goal is to have just a smooth transition all the way across the piece. Like down in here, it's not big of a problem, but when this giant gap comes up, that's just not aesthetically pleasing. You don't want that happening. But anyway, that's how that went. I'll let this cure and kick off, and we'll see how it turns out. Ultimately, this is how it turned out. See, I got all that in, butted up together and smoothed out, smoothed all the way around. I fixed my curve, and now we have one piece that fits back on the car like it's supposed to. Ta-da! Okay, so we're officially a wide body in the most basic term possible, because as you can see, she's 17 different colors right now. But anyway, so in the next video, we're probably going to be either doing wheels and tires, suspension, or the front bumper. Not exactly sure what we're going to do next, but there is going to be several steps to this, including at the very end, a full color change of paint. But as of now, this is how she sits. And if you want to keep on watching this kind of stuff, follow, like, subscribe, do all the cool stuff that all the other YouTubers say. And God bless. Have a good afternoon.